So the question becomes, obviously, you have a machlokas here between Rabbi was willing to embarrass the person and Rabbi Chia was not. Rabbi Chia said, we can't. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, whoever ate the garlic has to walk out. So there are opinions in the Mefarshim that Rabbi held Kavarat Torah. I mean, a guy walks into Shir, don't eat garlic before you come into Shir. We all know that in Shul, when the Baal Koreh is reading, he makes a mistake. You correct the Baal Koreh. Did you embarrass the Baal Koreh? Not the Baal Koreh here. The Baal Koreh here is a wonderful Baal Koreh. Never makes a mistake. But did you correct the Baal Koreh? Are you embarrassing him? You're not embarrassing him. He's embarrassing. I mean, you can prepare the lading properly. Everybody has to be Yotze. He has to be corrected. I've long felt that they should have teams in Shul. You should divide the Shul into two teams. And you get a point. Every time you correct the Baal Koreh, you score a point. Everybody will pay attention to lading that way. Right? And at the end of Shul, whichever team wins, make an ufra for them or something. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi held, you can't, for the sake of Torah, you're coming into a shir, you embarrass yourself. I didn't embarrass you. You can't ruin a shir because it smells like garlic. And Rabbi Chia held that still, like we find with Machlokas Hillel and Shammai with the Gerim, the guy comes in and he insults the Torah. He says, teach me the Torah while I stand on one foot. And a different approach. There's one approach which is Kavod Torah, and the other approach is no, we still have to tolerate. It's a Machlokas Hashem Shemaim, different opinions. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. What's the Musar Haskell? What's the Gemara teaching us over here? How does all this tie into Aharon HaKohen? So, the understanding here is there are different degrees. It says that Klal Yisrael, beautiful pshat, I once heard, Klal Yisrael are compared to stars. Why are Klal Yisrael, why are Jews compared to stars? So there's the standard explanation, which was we're numerous like the stars. There's the other explanation that the star, you see a small pin of light. The closer you get to the star, the more brightly the light shines. Every Jew that you'll ever meet who's a Jew who is focused on growth, you knew the man, one day, Rahman al-Aslan, the man is nifter. And then they start eulogizing him, and they say things about him at the Shiva, and you find out, wow, I didn't know that about him. I didn't know he did that. I didn't know, wow, he went to the Daf Yomi every day for the last 40 years, and he gave a certain amount of tzedakah, and he was considerate in everything that he did. And then you find out that what you saw was like a star. You saw a small point of light, yet the closer you got, the more you see the Jew, the brighter it shines. If we had a schus, if any of us would be able to spend a day with the Chafetz Chaim, or a day with Rav Moshe Feinstein, or a day with Rav Elyashiv, whatever you read about in the books would pale in comparison. By the end of the day, you'd be awe-inspired. You can't believe what a magnificent person this is. And in the world at large, it's the opposite. The bigger the person is, by the end of the day, you'd be running away holding your nose, because he becomes very, very minuscule. And that's, by the way, the pshat when it says in the Medrash that Paro, the king of Egypt, it says was 1 amma tall. 1 amma is about maybe 18 inches. Paro was about this tall. Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful emperor of the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, the Medrash says, was katan kikad. He was the size of a jug. Right? And now, it's very difficult to understand those two midrashim. One Chazal says Paro is an amma tall. Nebuchadnezzar is the size of a jug. These are the two most powerful people in history. It sounds like there's a premium to be an emperor. You got to be able to walk under the table without banging your head, without bending your knees. What does that mean? The answer is that you can be the emperor of the world, and anybody who gets to know you up close sees you're a very small person. You're really a very small person. You make issues over little things, and you're a person who's never spent a day working on yourself. You've worked on the rest of the world, and you've annihilated the rest of the world, but you haven't spent a day working on yourself, which is the hardest war of all to fight. So, Klal Yisrael is compared to stars. The closer you get to the Jew, the bigger the Jew becomes. But I heard another pshat. Where did the stars come from? How were the stars? Why were the stars created? So Chazal say that at the beginning of creation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and there were two big lights. So the moon came to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, Rebbeinu Shalom, you can't have two kings with one crown. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're absolutely right, go reduce yourself. And I'm sure the moon was thinking, oh, no, that's not what I meant. That's not where I was going with all this. Yet the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, go reduce yourself. The moon was very depressed because now the sun is brighter than the moon. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He said, in order to appease the moon, that the moon shouldn't feel bad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the stars, said, you're going to be the general who's in charge of this entire army of stars. And that's why the stars come out at night with the moon as the general. That means that the entire creation of the stars came into being in order to spare the moon pain, to make the moon feel good. That was the entire inception of the stars, was so that the moon shouldn't feel bad. So we're compared, Klal Yisrael is compared to stars. That means our tafkid in life, our job in life, is that we should make sure that the people around us, we do everything we can to spare them any discomfort and try to bring them comfort. That's the idea of being compared to the stars. And therefore, the job of Klal Yisrael is that we are meant, our tafkid in life, is to spread an attitude and to convey a feeling to other people that we're there for them. And the last thing we want to do is to hurt anybody. Chas v'shalom. There's a famous story. I'm sure you've all heard some version or other of it. There's one part of the story you probably have not heard. Rabbi Akiva Eger, Zatzal, the great Rabbi Akiva Eger, he was rumored, by the way, to chazer 100 daf Gemara a day. You know that? They rumored Rabbi Akiva Eger, then they found out the rumor was not true. It was only 80 daf a day. So he finished Shas every month, Rabbi Akiva Eger chazer. That was his morning Seder. Morning Seder, we work out a Tosos or two. He went 80 daf Gemara. That's why he's printed in the Gemaras, by the way. So Rabbi Akiva Eger once had a guest at the Pesach Seder. And the guest, sitting there, and the guest spilled his wine. Well, you know, if you've ever been a guest at somebody's house, how you feel when you spill. There's always somebody there who says to you, oh, it's okay, right? But it's not okay, and you're the only one, and you feel terrible. So Rabbi Akiva Eger waited a couple of minutes, and he very discreetly shook the table and spilled his own wine. So the guest shouldn't feel it, and he said, well, I guess there must be something wrong with the table. The guest felt terrific. You're talking about the Gaon HaGaonim, Rabbi Akiva Eger. So I'll share with you a personal incident that happened when I got married. We were living right here in Maladafna up in 135. The first guest we ever had at the yeshiva, 3 weeks after we were married, we had a guest in the house. And it was Lel Shabbos, married for 3 weeks. And I invited one of the Bachrim up from the yeshiva here, a friend of mine, and my wife brought out the chicken, and he speared a piece of chicken with his fork, and as he brought it to his plate, the chicken slid off his fork, and it fell on the floor. So he bent down and picked it up. I think he picked it up with his hand and put it on the serving platter. You know, when you're nervous, that's when you strike out. So he put, I don't remember what he did exactly, he puts it back on. And my wife and I didn't care because chickens spend most of their life on the ground anyway, so another couple of seconds wouldn't hurt anybody. And so this guy goes and he put, and we're sitting there, and he was terribly uncomfortable. It was terrible. It was just so tense in the room. And all of a sudden I remembered the Rabbi Akiva Eger story. And I started buzzing with excitement, which, by the way, is always dangerous. Anytime you go to do a mitzvah, if you're buzzing with excitement, be really careful. And I started buzzing with excitement, and I realized that I am about to become one of the 36 tzaddikim of the generation. And my only question was whether or not I would find another 35 to join me. That was my only. And I was buzzing with excitement, and you know how they have in every frum home, there's a picture on the wall, you always see a picture of the Chazon Ish and the Chafetz Chaim. I already saw myself in the middle, right? Just the three of us. I saw, it was, and so I waited, I very, very discreetly, I took my drink and I put it on the side of my plate and it spilled. And he was so relaxed, and I was so proud of myself. I wanted to give myself a bracha. And he was so relaxed, wonderful. We had a wonderful Suda. And then after he left, my wife of 3 weeks turns to me. She says, "Listen, Tzadikal, do me a favor. Next time you spill on yourself. Don't spill on me, okay?" She was drenched. I can guarantee you that Rebbe Eger was dry as a bone, right? She was drenched. You know, it wasn't my fault, by the way. I just come out of Chassan classes, and they teach you that, it's a partnership. She's part of the mitzvah, too. So what do you call it? So at least we try. But you understand, a Rabbi Akiva Eger, where is a Gadol B'Torah, what's his goal? Spare the other people this pain, spare the other people the anguish. That's the goal of a Torah Jew. There was another an incident that took place. A man was in the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai, and he got, Shanghai, the Mir Yeshiva was in Shanghai. They came to the United States, and he got married, raised a family in the United States. The man had a very peculiar custom. He never made an issue out of food. Never made an issue out of food. Food didn't interest him. Whatever anybody else was eating was fine. You're having sandwiches, you're having cooked, doesn't matter, white meat, dark meat. He didn't care. I guess if you're with the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai. So then his son became about 18, 19 years old. He sent his son off to yeshiva. Listen, gentlemen, those of you who are married should certainly listen, and those of you who are not yet married, you should listen too, and probably possibly even better. So the man gets married. He has a son. He sends his son off to yeshiva. And after a few months, the father goes to visit him. He spends the day in the yeshiva, and at a certain point, the son says, "Dad, do you want something to eat?" He says, "Yeah, what are you having?" He says, "Elbow macaroni." He says, "How about something else?" He says, "Okay, how about eggs?" He says, "Eggs are fine." And the kid was shocked. It was the first time in his life he ever heard his father make a preference regarding food. So they ate, made him some eggs. He says afterwards, "Dad, why didn't you want the elbow macaroni?" The father says to him, "Look, I was at the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai. The Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai, the weather in Shanghai was very hot and balmy. The food that we ate was often infested with slugs. And every few bites, he had to scoop through and take out the slugs to get through the food. To this day, elbow macaroni reminds me of slugs. I prefer not to have elbow macaroni." The kid looked at his father and he was shocked. Twice a week for 25 years, his wife had been making him elbow macaroni for supper, and he never said a word. Wouldn't want to hurt his wife's feeling. Can you imagine? Could you imagine? Twice a week for 25 years. And many wives will tell you, "Listen, don't do me any favors. If anything reminds you of slugs, don't eat it." They'll tell you that. But the idea that, oh, my wife, she's a person too. Don't want to hurt her feelings either. That's what it means to be a star. That's what we're compared to stars. That number one, the first step, the first level in Bein Adam L'Chavero, first level is don't hurt other people. Be concerned about other people. That's level number one. There's another level here, and that is that doing for other people, physically doing. When you think about chesed, you think about Bein Adam L'Chavero. So obviously we were put in this world to help other people. That's the job of a Torah Jew. We're here to help other people. Level one, don't hurt anybody. And if anybody is in pain, do whatever you can to alleviate their pain. Level two is physically doing for other people. Level two is actually going out of your way for other people. Sometimes people say, I'd like to do chesed. Where do I have chances to do chesed? Where do I have an opportunity to do chesed? Person is conscientious. You look around, you want to help other people. There are plenty of people in your life, family members, friends, roommates, rebbeim, plenty of people in the world that can be helped if you really want to help. If you want it and you're looking for it, you're going to find it. The Stipler's could barely, practically not hear. And his eyesight wasn't that good either. And he could barely hear. Yet when the Stipler was in shul at the Torah, if the Baal Koreh made a mistake laning, the Stipler was usually the first one to correct him. And he didn't hear well. Because if you really care, and you want to hear it, you'll hear it. And if you want to find it, you'll find it. I once walked out on a boiling hot Friday, here in Eretz Yisrael. Boiling hot Friday. Went to take out the garbage. And as I walked towards in Israel, if you've ever seen at the corners, they have these big green dumpsters. You ever seen them? The big green dump. They call them tzfardeim. They look like frogs. Those big green dumpsters. They're about 5 or 6 feet off the ground. So I get out to this garbage dumpster, a boiling hot Friday afternoon. I got this bag of garbage, and as I get to the dumpster, I see a neighbor of mine is halfway up and in the garbage pail, reaching for something. So, of course, my first reaction was, do you need help getting in? He didn't appreciate the humor. And I watched him for a second, and he's standing there, and at a certain point, he pulls out a cardboard box, he crumples it up, flattens it out, and throws it back in, and he jumps up again, and again, he reaches in, pulls out a cardboard box, Far be it for me to judge anybody else's hobbies, but, I've never seen this before. So at a certain point, I just said to him, "What are you doing?" So he looked at me, he says, "Oh, maybe you haven't heard. On Saturday night, there's going to be a municipal strike. They're not going to be collecting the garbage. I want to try to make as much room in the garbage dumpster so that the neighbors on the block will be as inconvenienced as little as possible." So you think to yourself, my goodness. Here I saw him what he was doing. I didn't even know what he was doing when I saw it. I certainly didn't think of doing it. So if a person is looking to do, and by the way, you don't have to leave the home. There's plenty to do in the home. For the married people, it's called laundry, towels, parnasa, all sorts of fun things like that. If you're not married, there are plenty of people around you. You got to bring somebody a meal if he's not feeling well. Plenty of things to do if a person wants to do it. If a person is looking to do it, that's what we call That's what we call it. And by the way, there's I've mentioned many times in this base, we have this, those of us who have been living here, we have your only in Israel story. Right? There are a lot of stories that only happen in Israel, like the bus, Sukkot, the bus who stopped in the middle of Kikar Shabbos, blocking traffic in all four directions. And he called over to the guy, and he said, yeah, I need hadassim. And the guy walks over, and he gives him the hadassim, and he pays it and says, great, now I got my daled minim, now we're ready to go. Right? So, what do you call it? And in Israel, it doesn't even cause you, nobody even says, boo. Oh, of course. And if anybody would object on the bus and say, hey, what is this? Don't you see the man needs hadassim? What's with you? Don't confuse us with the rest of the world. So, by the way, somebody told me tonight there was a guy shopping in Machane Yehuda before when they sold the Daled Minim in Machane Yehuda. So the guy was shopping, looking for his Daled Minim. So, he's looking at Lulovim Nestrogan, and he put a sign on his back that said, "No, I don't need koicheklach," right? And when he was so nobody should come over and ask him if you need the lulav holders. In any event, there was a couple in Eretz Yisrael had to go away for Shabbos, and they got on. They had to go to Bnei Brak, and as they got to Bnei, they got a late start, and they got off the bus. They were on the highway, and they got a late start, and they realized that they're not going to make it to Bnei Brak. So they have to wait for the next bus. So they crossed the street to go back to Harnof. They tried hitching a ride. So a guy stops, and he says, "Where are you going?" He says, "We're going to Harnof." I said, "Well, why are you here now?" And he said, "Well, we're going to go to Bnei Brak, but it's too late till we get the bus. It's not going to make it, so we're going to go home." So the guy gets out of his car, takes a few steps away so there will be no objection. He says, "My name is Ploni. I live at such and such an address." He throws the guy the key to the car. He says, "Here, drive to Bnei Brak. Bring me the car back after Shabbos." I want to tell you something. I don't know all the details about insurance and driver's license. There's also in Israel, it's perfectly okay to drive without a license. But at the end of the day, that was a joke, by the way. At the end of the day, you're looking, you want to help people, you'll find people to help. There are plenty of people in the world to help. Okay, those are two levels. That's all an introduction, I will say. There's a form of giving. We're concerned not to hurt other people. We do physically and actively for other people. There's another form of giving which is even more difficult. And that is, it says by Aharon HaKohen, that Aharon HaKohen is the older brother. He's got a younger brother who's now become the manhig of Klal Yisrael. He's the leader of Klal Yisrael. And as the leader of Klal Yisrael, he's going to get all the acclaim and all the honor, all the prestige. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Moshe Rabbeinu and says, "Moshe, you're going to be the leader," what's Moshe Rabbeinu's reaction? Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Please, Hashem, shlachto biyad tishlach. Don't send me, send my brother." Aaron had been the leader up until Moshe Rabbeinu. Who was the leader of the Jewish people in Egypt? It was Aaron. All those years that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't there. So not only is he going to see that his younger brother gets the higher level position, but he is being demoted in a certain way because it's going to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Rebbeinu Shalom, please, don't send me, send my brother." And what does Rebbeinu Shalom say to Moshe Rabbeinu? Says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "V'roacha v'samach belibo." He'll see you and he'll rejoice in his heart. He'll be happy for you. And Chazal say that as a result of Aharon HaKohen rejoicing for Moshe Rabbeinu, he was zochet to wear the choshen on his heart, the chest plate that the Kohen Gadol wore, that goes over the heart with the gems, the chest plate that the Kohen Gadol wore. Aaron was zochet to wear that on his heart because of v'racha v'samach b'libo. So, you stop and think to yourself, Aharon HaKohen, he wears the chest plate, he's v'racha, he's happy for Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why he gets it. So I want to tell you something. Our impression of Aharon HaKohen, what's your impression when you think of Aharon HaKohen? Wow, he saw his younger brother and he's happy for him and everything else. So you think to yourself, well, Aharon HaKohen was just, he was just, in every family there's always that one kid who's the gutter, he's the gutter neshama in the family. And Aaron was just so sweet, and he's just happy for his brother's success. Says Rabbi Yankel Galinsky, that's not the case. Reward tells you what the degree of difficulty is. So if a person achieves something in life and receives a very high salary for it, chances are what he's doing is a high responsibility. He's bringing in a lot of money. He's doing something that earns that sort of return on whatever it is that his work or whatever it is his effort is. If Aharon HaKohen got a choshen, you know what that choshen was? That choshen was the stand-out ornament that the Kohen Gadol wore. Everything the Kohen Gadol wore, when you see little children on Purim dressed up as Kohanim Gedolim. In Israel, you see a lot of Kohanim Gedolim running around on Purim. What's the one feature that stands out more than anything else? It's that choshen with the pretty gems on it. And Aharon HaKohen is going to be rewarded with that. Now, you know how significant that reward is? There's a man named Korach. Korach wanted to be the Kohen Gadol. He wanted the honor and the prestige, symbolized by that choshen. Korach was the richest Jew in history, and Korach had a lot of honor and prestige. He was the Levi who carried their own Kodesh. And what does Korach do? What does he sacrifice because he wants that choshen? He gives up his existence in this world, and he gives up his existence in the world to come. He goes to the depths of Gehenna, and he's there still, and we're going to be dancing a little bit on Simchas Torah, Moshe Emes, V'Torasa Emes, and we jump up and down. You know why we jump up and down? Because that's what Korach is yelling in Gehenna. He's yelling, Moshe Emes, V'Torasa Emes, but when you're standing on coals and you're yelling that, what do? You jump up and down as much as you can. That's why we jump up and down. Moshe Emes, V'Torasa, and we're jumping up and down. That's what Korach's doing in Gehenna. Why did he end up there? Why did he give that up? What was he willing? What did he want so much? He wanted to wear that choshen. So if Aharon HaKohen was rewarded with such a significant reward, it can't be that he was just, oh, I'm just so happy for you. Because it means he did no work in order to get there. That means Aharon HaKohen had to work on himself to change his heart to actually be happy for his younger brother. And it's a hard, difficult challenge, one of the most difficult in life. That's why he earns a reward as prominent as the choshen. Otherwise, if it wasn't that sort, no pain, no gain. And therefore, Aaron is rewarded with the choshen. There's a big Rav named Rabbi Aharon Grozensky. He's the mashgiach of the Slobodki Yeshiva. Rabbi Aharon Grozensky was once traveling, and he stayed by a roadside inn. In the morning, he goes to pay his bill, his tab, goes over non-Jewish proprietor, and as he walks over to pay the owner of the inn. So the guy looks at him and he winks at him. He goes, Rabbi, what do you call it? So Rabbi Grozensky says, what do I call what? He says, come on, Rabbi. What do you call it? He says, what do I call what? He says, Rabbi, listen, I passed by your room last night at midnight. I know you were alone in that room, and I heard singing and dancing coming from your room. I know that a person alone in a room cannot sing and dance unless he has a good, strong bottle of booze. And therefore I ask you, what do you call it? Because I would like to get some too. So he looks at him, he says, my friend, I promise you I did not have any alcohol in my room. If you don't believe me, you could check the wastebasket. You will find there are no empty bottles in the wastebasket. So he says to him, so why were you singing and dancing? He says, look, I'm a rabbi in a yeshiva. I have many disciples. One of my talmidim, one of my students, got married last night. I couldn't be there at the wedding with him physically, but I wanted to share in his joy, and therefore I was singing and dancing for that talmid. So if you stop and think about it, think in your own life. Anytime you hear of somebody else's good fortune, what's the knee-jerk reaction of many people? I don't know, most probably though. You find out that somebody won a lot of money, somebody got a promotion which you wanted, something good happened to somebody. What's the feeling? There's a little bit like, I'm just so happy for you, right? I want everybody to be happy, but I want me to be happy. And often what happens is in life situations, by the way, a young lady approached me at a seminary here in Israel when I told the story about Rabbi Aharon Grozensky. Listen, Rabbi Aharon Grozensky is one of the Gedolim stories. Young lady said to me, she's from Los Angeles, and one night, her father, at about 8 o'clock at night, he called all the kids into the living room. He said, come on guys, let's dance. Okay, Daddy wants to dance, so we dance. That's certainly better than getting potched, So when everybody comes into the living room, they start dancing. After about 10 minutes, one of the kids says, Daddy, why are we dancing? He goes, I forgot to tell you. Remember, the Goldsteins are making a wedding tonight. They didn't invite us, but just because they didn't invite us doesn't mean we can't celebrate for them. That gets a psh. That definitely gets a psh. Because most people, if you're not invited to a wedding that you think you should be invited to, what's your reaction? Honestly, again, you're probably better than I am. If there's a wedding that you really wanted to be invited to and you weren't invited, and you clear our throat real loud. Nobody's listening because we're there alone. But, I see. And then you start thinking, well, Danam Lakav Schus, maybe the wedding invitation got lost in the mail, or maybe there were. But at the end of the day, why couldn't somebody else's wedding invitation get lost? Why did mine have to get lost? And why is mine always the one that's getting lost? And then and then the next thought is, boy, I can't wait till we make a wedding, and then I'm going to make my list of who I don't invite, right? And the first ones are Goldstein. How many people in the family there? Okay, I got 7 non-invitations to send out, right? Why? Because the person feels, listen, what happened to me? What happened to me? And the answer is, the girl said her father had them dance. Now, you hear about Rabbi Avram Grzinski. Okay, he's one of the Gedolim, and he's a Mashgiach, and a Baal Musar, and he worked on himself. This is what we call an ordinary Jew, even by, frankly, there are no such thing as an ordinary Jew. This is one of those Jews who's a star, because once you hear the story about him, what you see, you may be seeing him in shul every day. Then you find out this is a man who's got that ability. This is one of the Kochavim. So a person understands, we're not talking about what are the Gedolei Yisrael. V'racha v'samach b'libo. You have to see the other, rejoice for the other person. How did Aharon get there? And this is the key to the whole thing. The key to the whole thing is v'racha v'samach b'libo. He'll see you when he greets you, plain meaning of the pasuk. Aharon will see you, Moshe Rabbeinu. When he sees you, he'll greet you and he'll rejoice. V'racha v'samach b'libo. The key to the whole thing is v'racha. He'll see you. Our problem is that often we spend our lives, we have a kind of blinders on. When you see other people, we basically see a reflection of ourselves. Often people use a pathetic excuse. You're introduced to somebody, and you say something like, 2 minutes later, if I ask you, what was that person's name? Oh, I'm really horrible with names. No, you're not. I can prove to you that you're really good with names. Not only good, you're excellent with names. You know how I know? Because if I said to you, by the way, there's a gentleman over there who's a multi-billionaire, and he's looking for somebody to be the head of his company, and his name is Mr. Plazansky. I guarantee you're going to remember that name in your dreams. You're going to remember that name, right? Because that's important to you. When we meet other people, often all we hear when we're introduced is, hi, this is Plony, this is blah, blah, blah. That's all we hear, because all we're thinking about is, what impression am I making? What's he going to think of me? What can I get out of him? And we don't even see the other people. V'racha v'samach b'libo. That's why Sukkot is called the Chag of Aharon. What's that got to do with Sukkot? V'racha v'samach b'libo. What's it got to do with Sukkot? The answer is that when we build a sukkah, what is the halacha? How many walls do you have to have for your sukkah? By the letter of the halacha, 3 walls is enough. All you have to have is 3 walls. We don't generally do that. We generally make 4 walls. Al pi halacha, 3 walls is enough. What does that mean? What does that mean that we have 3 walls and not 4 walls? So the Mefarshim say that the 3rd wall, normally in the course of the year, what happens to a person? Person is secluded in his own 4 walls. It's my life. I think about myself. Most of the time you think about your thoughts during the day. Who are you thinking about most of the hours of the day? We're thinking about ourselves. We walk, you may hear something about, something happened, so, that's terrible. How long does that thought occupy our mind, honestly? You think, that's terrible. Then we shift right back to our regular state, which is, what do I need? Where am I going? What am I doing? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to get to? The thoughts boomerang right back to ourselves. So, v'racha v'samach b'libo is the key. 3 walls means that those walls which block us from seeing other people, those walls come down on Sukkot. Sukkot symbolizes the Chag of Aharon. It's the reminder. after Yom Kippur, where we said al chait, in consideration for other people. Tzararnu, we cause pain to other people. All of the Bein Adam L'Chavero missteps from the course of the year, where we promised God the moon. Think where you were, gentlemen. Ne'ilah, Yom Kippur, just a week and a half ago. Ne'ilah and Yom Kippur, we reached the pinnacle of our ruchnius in the course of the year, fasting completely detached of anything physical. And we've promised HaKadosh Baruch Hu the moon, including Bein Adam L'Chavero, including Bein Adam L'Chavero. So then we go to a sukkah. Ufros aleinu sukkah shlemecha. You have a sukkah, it's 3 walls. You know what? For a week, we have a reminder that we have to spend our year, our life, with focus on other people as well. The focus isn't only on ourselves. The focus is on others as well. That's the 3 walls. That's v'racha v'samach b'libo. That you see other people, there are other people in your life too. It's not only about me. That's the reminder of Sukkot. Remarkably, there was the idea of being happy for other people, which is one of the most difficult things in life. Often when a person, Rahman al-Itzlan, person goes through a difficulty, when a person suffers a loss, when a person is going through an ordeal, it's much easier to empathize with somebody in their pain than it is to celebrate with them in their moment of joy. One of the reasons is because when a person is in pain, on the one hand, we're willing to empathize. We want to empathize. We're perfectly willing to let them have it all. I don't want any portion of that whatsoever. So I can empathize with you, and I have no resentment whatsoever. I'm with you 100%, and somewhere deep down inside, or not so deep down, I'm glad that it's not me at all, not any percentage. When it comes to something good happening, somebody's good fortune, somebody who is doing well, there's that little dot inside that says, oh, I'd like some of that too. And therefore it's very difficult for us to give of ourselves to the other person 100%. That's called an ayin tova. The ayin tova is being able to look at somebody else with in Yiddish, it's called tefargin. They don't have a word for that in any other language. Where you're happy for another person. You're happy for another person. The ayin tova. You're glad for somebody else's success. Very difficult level. If you get there, you deserve a choshen on the heart. That's what we learned from Aharon. Very difficult. Much more difficult than doing physically for people is to actually feel joy at somebody else's good fortune or accomplishment. There's a famous vort from a Hasidic Rebbe. It's such a beautiful vort, and it's so deep if you think about the depth of it. The Ananei HaKavod are there because of Aharon. The Ananei HaKavod are there because of Aharon. His chus. Where do clouds come from, gentlemen? Where do clouds come from? Vapor. That's where clouds come from. Says, I don't remember who it was, who this is said, B'Shem, says like this, what was the function of the Ananei HaKavod for the Jewish people? It flattened out all the unpleasant paths in the desert, and it protected them from the spears and the arrows of the enemies, the chitzim and avdei blisteros of the enemies that were being shot. Protection for Klal Yisrael, for the Ananei HaKavod. I mean, that must have been great. Can you imagine going through the desert, and you're being transported by these Ananei HaKavod, and they protect you, and you get a ride on them, better than a first-class seat on a plane. I mean, everything is there for you, and you're eating mun. I mean, what do they do for Klal Yisrael? Protection. And where do they come from? B'schus Aharon HaKohen. Where do they come from? They come from vapor. It says that when two Jews speak to each other the way Aharon spoke to people, happy for other people, encouraging other people, complimenting other people, building other people up, positive, positive, positive. Two Jews speak like that. What does that produce? It produces vapor. That vapor produces the Ananei HaKavod. The vapor that comes out of the mouths of Jews who are positive, concerned for each other, that creates the Ananei HaKavod, which protects us. So you stop and think, in our day and age, we need protection and concerns from enemies in all directions. These ones have bombs, they got bigger bombs, and they'll bomb each other, but somehow the Jews are always concerned about getting caught in the crossfire. So we need protection. Where's our protection? Our protection is the Anani HaKavod. There's nothing we can do al pi derech hateva. Al pi derech hateva, we are as safe as we are being in a sukkah with flimsy schach on it. And that sukkah with the flimsy schach shows our protection. That's our the Anani HaKavod. It's the Bein Adam L'Chavero vapor that creates that protection for Klal Yisrael. That's why Sukkot is called the Chag of Aharon. The third wall comes down. We're able to see each other instead of only being focused on ourselves. Finally, there's a very beautiful idea. The Gemara says that somebody goes to a wedding, and you're misameach l'chasan at a wedding. It's as if you've rebuilt one of the ruins of Yerushalayim. Gemara and brachas. Somebody goes to a wedding, and you bring joy to the chasan. Say something nice about the kala. I heard she's a wonderful girl, terrific girl, whatever it is. And you bring joy, you gladden the chasan, you dance, perform feats of acrobatics in front of him, some which you succeed at, some which you don't, which are really amusing. And you gladden the chasan at a chasna, then it's as if you rebuilt one of the churvos of Yerushalayim, you built one of the ruins of Yerushalayim. What has one thing got to do? You go to a chasna over here in the, what do you call it, in the Gutnik Hall, or you go over to one of the halls, many halls in Yerushalayim, and you go, you eat a piece of schnitzel, and you dance in front of the chasna. Ooh, in front of the chasna, you rebuilt one of the ruins of Yerushalayim. The answer is, when you go to a chasna, and I go to chasna, what's the first thing you do? It could be a chasna in America. In America, I like it more because then you get a little card. It has your name on it. In Israel, then they don't know cards. You just hope you ended up in the right hall. Right? Because chances are you know those people too. Oh, is it this wedding? Oh, I thought it was last night. Sometimes you go to one of these halls, they have sometimes these 3 wedding halls together. I've been at weddings where I walk in and I sit down, half the people I know. And I go, oh, really? This isn't the wedding I meant to be at. I meant to be over the next hall. In America, you get a little tag and it calls you Mr. It's fancy, right? Sometimes it's a bencher, sometimes it's a shas, a menorah, whatever it is that your name is on, a little design. You feel important. Then you look to see who's at my table, who am I sitting with, and more importantly, what's on the menu. In Israel, there's no menu. It's the same every wedding hall you go to. But in America, a menu. And what are we in Israel? Who am I sitting with? Where am I going to get who's serving? And we forgot one thing. What did you come to the chassan for? You came to the chassan for the schnitzel. You came to the chassan for the invitation. You came to the chassan. You had a purpose. There's somebody getting married. When you go to a chassan, you go to a bridegroom, and you go to help him celebrate. Do you know what you've just done? You've taken all the focus off of yourself. If you're there for the right purpose, it's all about him. There's nothing in it for me right now. It's all about him. It's his moment, it's his day, it's his simcha, and I'm here for him, and him only, and I'm not thinking about myself. Oh, you know what you've just done? What destroyed Yerushalayim? We know, sinas chinam, baseless hatred, which always stems from a little bit too much concern with ourself. If we don't get along, it's because I'm concerned about me and you're concerned about you. If a person reverses, the person goes to a chasna, so much action, and there's so much potential fun, and all you do is you're focused on bringing joy to that chassan. Take myself out of the picture completely. It's not about me, it's about him. That's a complete reversal. That's a complete reversal that rebuilds one of the ruins of Yerushalayim. That means whatever destroyed it, this is what rectifies it. We go to Sukkot. Sukkot, we have our walls that we generally feel surrounded by in the course of the year. I'm working on myself. I have my own plan of how to grow in learning, and my own plan on how to grow in chesed, and I have my own plan on how to make parnasa. It's all about me. The course, it's all about me. On Sukkot, we turn around and say, you know what? We're a 7-day reminder, a week, a reminder, the walls come down. It's not only about me, it's about everybody else. There are other people in my world. And then, if we emulate Aharon HaKohen, who is the Ish Shalom, so then we have a fulfillment. HaKodesh Fros Aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha, spread the Sukkah of Shalom. There should be Shalom in Klal Yisrael, protection in Klal Yisrael, only good things and only simcha in the course of the year.